This is the Dave Ross Show on News Talk 97.3, Cairo FM.
Now, here's the crusader for common sense, Dave Ross.
He is, and he always will be. But even as a crusader, crusaders need to take time off to take their cape to the dry cleaner. And that's where Dave Ross is right now.
Wow.
What do you want? It's the last hour. I'm tired. I ate a bad piece of fish last night, and as I was eating it, I'm thinking, you know what? This is going to come back to haunt me. And around 3 in the morning.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for sharing, John.
Thank you.
What kind of fish was it?
It was blackened mahi-mahi, and I knew I shouldn't order it. I'm like, why am I ordering? I know it's not fresh, but I ordered it anyway, and I ate it anyway because I'm Irish, and I don't care about food. Nicole Brodeur joining me.
Okay.
It's true. Some people just live to eat. I just eat. If I could eat rocks and my teeth could hold up against the hard tartar explosion of rocks, I would eat rocks every day.
I've ever heard.
I don't care about food. But when it makes me get sick at 3 in the morning, and that's basically why I made that bad tie-in with analogy.
Good morning, everybody.
Whatever.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, the state of Washington wants the folks that make more than $250,000 a year to pay just a little bit more. We need a little bit more because we got to make sure that we fund our schools and our kids because they're our number one priority.
I'll agree with that.
Did you sign yes on 1098 when somebody with probably more piercings on their body looked like they fell into probably a fishing box, a tackle box, a lot of piercings on their face? They walk up to you with that clipboard and they say, "Hey, you want to defeat?" Let's.
How come that's racial profiling right there? That's,
what are you talking about?
That's metal profiling.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to make a sweeping generalization. Hold on. The people that are asking you to sign initiatives are most often temporary minimum wage workers.
That's true, but they're not necessarily these.
Most likely have a tattoo.
No.
Colonel Mustard in the study.
Have you seen
Colonel
Tim
Mustard,
Iman's Army?
Colonel Mustard in the study with the candlestick.
Take a look. Tim Iman's Army is that's not their kind of folks. They all have a nice watch, but that's about it.
Scott joins us now with a Defeat 1098. How is that going? Because you're up against a huge political movement in the state of Washington to get this through, 1098 through. Scott, how's it going on your end?
I think it's going very well, John. Thanks for having me on. We've got a lot of work ahead of us in the next 100 days to put together a movement that is larger than the proponents of this measure. And the proponents of this measure are those government employee unions that are pretty entrenched, and they have deep pockets, and they want to raise those taxes and establish the first ever state income tax. But here at Defeat 1098, we have a broad coalition of people from all across the ideological spectrum who believe that this tax would be wrong for the state of Washington, and it's our job to get that message out.
Nicole Brodeur, anything you want to say to Scott? You know, Nicole, although she is at times a very fluffy, very, very overly sensitive liberal, she's with you on this one.
I'm not completely with, but the initial premise is...
How can we convince you, Nicole? I think once we let people know in the state of Washington that we're one of 7 states that doesn't have a state income tax, and it's one of the few tax advantages we enjoy, and that this, they've pitched this tax as a tax on high earners initially, but we know that legislators in Olympia have a propensity to change these things, and in just 2 years, they can drop that income tax on everybody. And we'll all be paying a state income tax, and without going through any real reform of our budget or our educational system. It's just a tax that maintains the status quo, in our view.
Do you have a problem, Scott? Scott from Defeat 1098? Do you have a problem with the $250,000? That it's $250,000 on up? Are you okay with that?
It's actually $200,000.
It's $200,000.
How many people in the state make $200,000 or more?
The advocates of this have indicated that just 3% of Washingtonians will pay this tax. But our point in responding to that is that of the people who will pay this tax, nearly 70% have some business interest. So this is a tax on S-corps, on LLCs, and small businesses, of which pay about 70% of the wages in our state. So at a time when we're coming out of a very fragile economy and trying to recover, taxing all these small business owners because they report that income as personal income and use it for their businesses to expand or hire new employees is precisely the wrong thing to do. So we think that the tax is not only a bad idea, but it would particularly penalize small business owners.
I want to hear.
Well, that makes sense to me.
He's got you there. I want to hear from somebody that signed yes on 1098. 1-888-973-5476. 1-888-973-5476. If you signed yes on 1098 and now you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm not so sure about this, I'd like to hear from you. Scott, how about I give you this? I'm going to say we'll pass this. This law will pass, but in it will be it cannot drop below a certain amount. It cannot inflation up, meaning as your salary goes up through inflation, it can't capture you. It will go directly to schools, or you'd be okay with that. And it won't slide in, and we won't raise it in any way so it captures anybody else. Would you be okay with 1098 if I could throw all of that extra baggage on the mule?
Well, that's what proponents will say. They'll say that baggage is already on the mule. But,
okay.
The laws are in place. The Constitution allows for the Constitution of this state allows for legislators to have really the sole authority on taxation, and they can change these. They can change these initiatives. They demonstrated just last year. They overturned the initiative that would require a 2/3 majority vote to raise taxes in order to raise taxes by $800 million. And this account, this dedicated account for education, already exists. But even that can be rated by legislators, and they did so to the tune of $67 million last year for general fund. So
because we need it.
Nice.
We need it.
How much money? How much money do you need to raise to defeat this thing? Because it's just going to get down to commercials on television, and if you guys don't have enough cash, you're going to be watching Bill Gates Sr. on TV saying, listen, we need this tax, and it's only going to affect 3% of the population, so don't worry. Vote yes on 1098. And if you don't have, how much money do you need right now in your coffers to beat this thing?
Well, we are out there raising funds and building support for Defeat 1098. If you want to support us, it's defeat1098.com. And we think, because proponents, the advocates and the government employee unions that are supporting this, along with Mr. Gates that you mentioned, they've indicated they'll spend $5 to $8 million to get this passed because it will mean billions in tax revenue for them later on down the line. So we need to be competitive, and it's our job to make sure that we're spreading the message to every Washingtonian who's going to vote on this come this fall. So defeat1098.com is where people can go if they want to sign up to join our campaign, to donate, to get more information about the issue. Like I said, we've got a broad-based, diverse ideological coalition of Democrats, Republicans, independents who just think that this would be the wrong idea at the wrong time for this state.
You have a lot of rich guys that are covering their own rear ends. That's what somebody would say to you, my friend.
Well, that is what somebody would say to me, but how is it not the government employee unions covering their own rear end when they drop $200,000, $500,000, $1 million in? So legislators don't have to make any hard choices in Olympia and look at the structure of our government and decide that what they need is a tax on all Washingtonians. All Washingtonians are spending more and more money to a state legislature that refuses to make hard choices.
I have to agree on that, too.
Wow, look at you.
No, he's right.
That's what I like about you, Nicole
They're not
Brodeur.
making hard choices down there. They're not saying we need, everybody runs.
Right.
I'm talking about now we have like 5 rails that we can't touch.
This is what I like about you. Fair and balanced. You're like Fox News.
Thanks so much.
Hey, I want to hear Mike Roswell, who is, he says the problem with this tax, it is a backdoor income tax. And once you get in there at 2% on the rich, eventually it starts to trickle all the way down.